Welcome to Objections with Stan Willis. I'm Michael Morris, trying to get a word in edgewise with Stanuel E. Lee Willis. And
not even close. And that was very stealthy, the way you were kind of ducking under your microphone.
You know why I had to duck into it? So just so people that are watching this on YouTube, Stan and Nate like to slap dick around here so I can't start the show and make their little comment as I'm counting myself in. So then I didn't count myself in, but then I almost forgot the name of this show, which is Objection Lee. No. How are you?
Never better, buddy.
Okay. So I have a question that is a legal matter.
This is Objections with Michael Morris.
Yeah.
If you object to Michael Morris, please vote.
Do not put a vote thing up on the screen, Nate, because people really think they can vote. This isn't like Survivor. So I have a question because you
think Nate should host the show instead of Michael, please.
Oh, my God. I'm going to tell you this. When Nate does the other podcast with me, first of all, the guy is like a field mouse. Never says anything to anybody else. I literally introduced the show.
It's the biggest freaking field mouse I've ever seen.
He grabs the microphone like he's Tom Jones in Vegas. And he's like, suddenly, and he won't let me talk. And that goes on for half an hour. And then I get to close the show. And then as I'm closing the show, he always throws in something as I've done. So I'll be like, and you've been listening to Broad Street Radio, and I go, and goodbye. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that every time? We only have guests on the show, so Nate's not on the show. I just had to get that out for the listening public, all four of you. Now listen. As a lawyer, as a father of children you don't pay attention to, other women. The CDC just voted the other day 15-0 about vaccinating children as young as newborns for the strain of the China noodle, right? So I'm seeing that and I'm thinking, as a parent, like they're saying you can't go to school unless you've had these shots. What is your take on that? That 15-0, doesn't it almost seem like the Legion of Doom is running this country? And then it's like, how am I as a parent protecting my own family when you're making decisions for me?
Well, I think there's a lot of weird stuff going on surrounding the whole vaccine situation. That's not coming from far right underground news sources. Yeah. I mean, there are very public questions about possible very harsh and very bad side effects from the vaccine. There have been some accusations that that the side effects are incredibly harmful. Then you've got Dr. Fauci himself has said that they made some mistakes rushing the thing out. You have the stuff you alluded to earlier in Italy, where they're getting documents from Pfizer that are not legible because they're so redacted. Everything but the these and the ands, I think, were removed. And then, you have Pfizer saying things like, well, we never really tested to see whether or not this would stop transmission.
And I want to put this out so people understand this. This is not something that was read. They asked a woman, so it wasn't the head of the company came. Right. They sent somebody in his stead because he won't show up, because they found his emails and text messages explaining all of this.
Right.
And then that's why they asked for documentation that was over 1,000 pages. It just has black lines through them. Mm-hmm. So when they ask her, the German chancellor asks her in German and then switches to English. And he said, I want to make sure that this gets out correctly, because he was one of the people touting that you needed to have this to stop the transmission. When he asked this woman, she goes, no, like literally kind of laughs, like, no, we didn't have time. We didn't test this. And he said, so you're saying that you never tested if this would stop transmission? She said, no, we never even said it would. That's the problem. So then he did a separate video telling everyone, I apologize,
Right.
and please spread this message. Do you know how many outlets have covered that?
Nobody has.
Well,
but the thing is,
zero.
but
Zero
the,
have.
But the thing is, like I said, this isn't something that's coming from InfoWars, right? This is from public hearings in Germany amongst people who were friendly to the vaccine.
Right.
This isn't people who were anti-vaxxers trying to get this information out. This is people who were fully in support of it. And she volunteered this information. So, you know, it's interesting that nobody's covering it. But I think, you know, with you know, I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one on TV.
I'm a doctor.
But I think that having something that we clearly don't understand very well, it's interesting that the CDC would choose to endorse vaccinating young kids who initially, if you remember, they said didn't need to be vaxxed. And then they changed. I mean, initially it was, we don't need to vax anybody under 21 or 18, I forget what it was. And then it was, well, maybe down to 14. And then, well, okay, all the way down to infants.
Yeah, they're talking about newborns. And what I said to you before we started is my biggest problem with this is that as a father myself, if my daughter was born today, I wouldn't. You're so bewildered by what's happening when a baby is born. You don't realize what's going on in that room. And when they do vaccinations and all that for mumps and all that other stuff, you don't realize what's going on because you're just like, oh my God, my life has changed. So now you're bringing them in for checkups where they're getting shots and all that, and you're doing that in a routine. Never once did I say, what is this for? And that's probably my fault, but I trusted the medical profession to say, this is what we're doing and this is why you need it. At this point, if they're going to vaccinate newborns or even 6-month-olds, what is my choice as a parent? Because they're not giving them just this one vaccination; they're doing it in a series.
Again, so it comes down to the CDC doesn't have legislative power. They can't. The CDC can't say you're required to have a vaccine. All the CDC can do is make a recommendation. The school board the school board for the school district where your kids attend is the one who's going to have to set those requirements unless they're set by the state. So some states actually set the requirements, then some states allow the school districts to do that. So if the school or the state is going to require then those vaccines in order for your kids to go to school, then probably where you at is either you're hiring attorneys to challenge that if you don't want to have your children vaccinated, or you're homeschooling or finding a parochial school or a different private school that's not requiring the same requirements. And then you're going to have some states, like in California. I think California, if you're going to attend a school, you're going to have to be vaccinated. I mean,
well, part of why I'm asking this question is that Project Veritas. By the way, when I Googled Project Veritas, nothing shows up for the last 4 months, other than lawsuits they've been involved in. So they broke a story during, I want to say it was 2021. They have the guy who works for Eric Adams in New York City. So he was a former cop turned mayor. And they have this guy who got terminated, by the way, who they're asking him about the vaccination set. Like they made the cops and federal workers all get vaccines. And on this tape, he goes, well, fuck them. He literally says this. This is not me saying this. I mean, fuck California. But I'm saying that. He said, fuck them. They're federal employees. If you don't want the job, don't take the job. Right? Well, some people don't have that choice because they took that job and they thought I could provide for my family. So now they've taken a vaccine against their will. And he's saying Mayor Adams, being a former cop, probably doesn't believe in this, but he can't not support the party. We've gotten so deep into this, you're left or right, that you are making decisions on people's lives based on what it looks like so that you have polls look good for midterms or elections.
Right, and it's totally. I mean, this is a medical issue, and medical issues should not be political issues. You shouldn't. It's just not. This should not be a political issue. This should be something that each person gets to decide on their own for their children. Period. That's the way it should be.
But if the state of California, let's use that one, says it's not up to you.
But the state of California already has legislation related to abortion that says it is up to you.
I totally get it, but you see what I mean? Your body, your choice when we decide.
Right.
So which is no different than what the abortion rules have been to begin with. This is everyone's health versus this is a choice that somebody else is making. Mm-hmm. So the answer cannot be, and maybe it is the answer, but the answer can't be, well, just move out of California. What if you build a business there? Mm-hmm. You know, if your family's from there or whatever, if you're going to make people move out of a state.
The unfortunate thing is that if you live in California, the unfortunate thing is that in our society, your only choice is to you can't just decide not to follow the rules, right? You can't. If the state says that the speed limit is 55 and you want to go 70, then you can choose to go 70. But if you get caught, you're going to have there's a penalty for that, right? So if your state says that you have to be vaccinated, you have to challenge that rule or move out of the state. And you can dissent by not following the rule, but there are ramifications for the dissent, right?
Right.
So the unfortunate thing is that the only thing you have is the only thing that can happen is that if people are unhappy enough with a particular rule, then they can band together, get a referendum, change the rule. I mean, that's the choice. I think what we have a lot of people who just want to sit on the sidelines and complain about things, but when it comes down to doing something, they're not going to do that. And, the fact is that on a national scale, you have very little say, but in your community, you have a lot more say.
Right.
But if you're gonna sit at home and bitch about your school district, get involved in your school district. That's what we
don't touch the kids, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, right, no, don't go hang out on the playgrounds.
Well, that's what there was a GOP congressman that literally.
Actually, you should just stay away. But
I have to by law.
But for the rest of us, what I'm saying is, if you don't like the way your school district is handling something, then run for school board, or support somebody who sees things your way. Or gather together with people who see things your way and try to make a change and do it within the system and do it peacefully. I mean, if that's what you want to do, but it's not okay to sit at home and say, well, our school district sucks and nobody's doing anything about it, and not do anything about it. I mean, that's just the way our society is built. Is if you think something needs to change, then try to change it, and there are avenues to do that.
But and all that sounds great, and I agree with all that. I think that we live in a very solipsistic society where everybody thinks everything revolves around them, so they're going to complain.
Yes.
And they're not going to do anything about it, because the perfect example, your kids all played ball. Mm-hmm. Did you see all the same parents come to all the same games?
Pretty much, yeah.
Did you see all the same parents who didn't come to the games, miss the same, right? There are people who, at my daughter's games, I only see like 2 parents out of like 15 kids, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same ones over and over. So people get apathetic about life in general, and I think their thing is, I'm going to take care of myself. I remember with Gen X was supposed to be that me generation, right? That's what they would say. I've never seen a generation more about themselves than this current generation, which also involves 40 and 50-year-olds who refuse to. It used to be you bought a Corvette and divorced your wife and got a younger girlfriend. Now it's you're on social media and taking pictures of yourself and your friends and all that. We have a very miserable society because nobody really gets down to what's bothering them. So all these outside factors, they go spend money, right? They take pictures of themselves. They go on vacations because the pressure of actually having to step up and do what you're saying is so much more because now you are in charge, Stan. Now what do you say? Oh, I didn't really have any idea. I just had this one thing. I wanted to do. Sometimes it's just doing one thing can cause a lot of change. But we have too much government interference in our life, and it's only getting worse. They're already censoring the internet. Like I said, Project Veritas, I'm on Google and can't find it. On the first 2 pages. I'm on Twitter, it's buried. So you had to search for it yourself. If they're controlling the information you're getting, as we get older, the kids today, as they grow up, they'll never know to look for the truth. The truth will be gone. And the CDC is being paid by Big Pharma to exist anyway. So, of course, I just thought there might be one person that had a set of balls on them that would be like, I vote no. Just to make it, otherwise it was probably like, no, we're in. We just got paid. This whole country is run by Big Pharma.
Well, I mean, you're partially right on that. The country's run by the people with the most money. I mean, and that's kind of the way it is. And I mean, the fact is that we are. You talk about pessimistic. So we are in this country. We get to go vote. We get to do that here in a couple of weeks. We get to go in and vote, and because
super excited. I'm doing like 9 times. Because
we get to go vote, we think that somehow we have that somehow influences and we have some say. And I would say on a local level, it probably does, but on a state level and definitely on a federal level, it's kind of irrelevant. It used to be when you talked about things like the deep state that people were like, oh, that's conspiracy theory. But the fact is that in every country, everywhere, the deep state exists.
Steny Hoyer just admitted that the other day.
Well,
he referenced the deep state and said, yes, but they don't make policy. That's the first time I've ever heard anyone in Congress go, yeah, they're here. It used to be Alex Jones would say that stuff, and it's like, that's crazy. You had somebody on the record say that. And deflect it like,
but the fact is that politicians, no matter how good they are, no matter how honorable they are, no matter anything, politicians have competing loyalties because they get elected because people make campaign contributions. So the people making the campaign contributions and the people who control most of the money actually control the policy. It's not. It just is that way, and it might not be as overt as walking into the office of the senator that they. One of the senators that they help get elected and say, you will vote this way because of this. It might be just, you know what would be really good for me?
You know what I would like? I just happen to have this picture of this yacht here, and you can have it, but I'd really like you to vote this way. So no influence, though.
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily bribing or anything. I think it's just kind of it just
it's
is.
Contributing to your campaign, though.
But it just is. The only way to make the system work the way the system's designed is to take all the money out of it, right? I mean, that's the only way for it to happen. Now, what are the chances of that happening?
100%.
I mean, that's...
Oh, no. Not.
It's the... I mean, it just comes down to that. The money... Once money is introduced into a system and it's not controlled... And it's not above board. It's it's just there. You're swimming in it, and it's not controlled. Once that happens, the system's broken.
Right.
And so the people that we elect. I mean, if you look from Reagan to
Other Reagan.
Biden, I couldn't remember his name.
Sorry, he doesn't know it either.
Isn't that terrible? I'm almost anyway. The you went Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, right? But in that entire time frame, our overall overarching policies, whether it's foreign policy or domestic policy, has really changed very little. Very little. I mean, the only thing that's consistently happened is that they've taken our rights away, consistently, a little bit at a time. Other than that, there have been no real policy changes in that time frame. I mean, if you look through it and find one. Think about it. What major real policy change has there been? What in the? I mean, it's like they were on autopilot. It didn't matter who was in; they were still doing the same things, right?
It's a big club.
I mean, the first Bush invaded Iraq, right?
We had to
did
democracy,
and then Clinton came in, and he didn't invade anybody overtly, but we had wars going on everywhere, right? And then the second Bush comes in, and he invades Iraq and Afghanistan, and he was aggressive. Yeah. And then Obama comes in, and we're in Syria. I mean, so our foreign policy had radically changed.
Why do other countries not like us, Dan? I'm just kidding, because we're pricks. That's why.
I think that you have the world elites working against us. The world elites are trying to tie a bow around America and blame us for all the bad stuff, and you're doing a pretty good job of it, actually.
Well, we've kind of helped with that cause.
Well, certain factions have.
I just meant this show. I have one more thing before we leave, because I want to get this on the record.
Is there a record?
Nate is typing this entire thing. That's why he's always on this.
And this will go on your permanent record.
So
you'll never get a job.
When it comes to
you'll never work in this town again.
When it comes to telling people during the pandemic and past that, they had celebrities tell you to do it, and the drug companies ran spots for it and all that. Mm-hmm. Not one official has ever done a commercial or any of that other stuff of the government to tell you to do it. Mm-hmm. I will tell you what I think, but you look at that and go, there might be potential lawsuits against those people. So if I was Nancy Pelosi and I had my winking drinking eye blinking and I'm telling you to take this,
she's a great investor. She's never had an investment that lost money.
Well, she's very good at it. What I was telling Nate the other day, that Nancy Pelosi.
What I'm thinking is that she should give up her gig there.
She should work for Edward Jones,
and she should be like, I mean, how much would you, if you knew that this person had this track record? How much would you pay for that advice?
Stan, she gets lucky. She only wins on 81% of her investments.
Is it only 80? I thought she would never had one that lost.
Oh, I'm sorry. Her portfolio goes up 81%. She actually has never lost.
Yeah.
You know how she got in there? She used to.
How she got those investments?
No. You know how she got into the government?
Well,
the Kennedys.
She was a Kennedy. Yeah. I know. I've seen the pictures.
Yeah. She was a Kennedy couch. You can lay on that anytime you want. Anyway, I just wanted to get that on the record as well.
Yick.
You've been listening to Objections with Stan Willis. We might see you next week.